Hey there. Our fighter verse for this week will be 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 and 4. Now, a couple reminders about our fighter verse. First, our fighter verse is something that gets us through the week. It's something that we hold on to no matter what we face throughout the week, that gets us to Sunday morning when we gather together right here for Sunday morning worship. And so it gets us through the week. The second thing is this. As it gets us through the week, we put it to memory. We want to be able to recall this verse no matter what we're facing, no matter where we're at. We want to be able to recall this verse. And so there's helpful ways of doing that, writing it out, reading it and rereading it every day. But the goal is that no matter what you're doing, sitting at work, making dinner, whatever, waking up, that there's something you can recall from this fighter verse. And so that's our approach to every single week. Now here is something I want us to do as we share in this fighter verse for this week. Before we read 2 Peter 1, verses 3 and 4, I want you to write down this sentence. We live a certain way, ... no matter what, period. We, as Christians, we live a certain way, ... no matter what. So here we go. 2 Peter 1, verses 3 and 4. His divine power has granted to us all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of him who called us to his own glory and excellence, by which he has granted to us his precious and very great promises, so that through them you may become partakers of the divine nature, having escaped from the corruption that is in the world because of sinful desires. So note this. We, you and I, as Christians, we have God's precious and very great promises. We get to hold on to them. Now, where are these very great and precious promises? It's right here. Right in his word, the Bible. So mark that down. We have his precious and very great promises. Now, since we have his precious and very great promises, we live a certain way. And that is in 2 Peter 1, verses 5 and 7. For this very reason. What reason is that? We have his great and very precious promise, or his precious and very great promises. We have them. And since we have them, we live a certain way. Verse 5, for this very reason, make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with steadfastness, and steadfastness with godliness, and godliness with brotherly affection, and brotherly affection with love. So note that. We have his precious and very great promises, and since we do, we live a certain way. Now notice what happens when you live a certain way, because you have God's great and very precious promises. Verse 8, for if these qualities are yours and are increasing, they keep you from being ineffective or unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. Look what happens since we have these precious and very great promises. If we live a certain way because of them, we end up knowing Jesus better. Kind of exciting. Now note this too. And we keep living a certain way, looking forward to the greatest promise. And the greatest promise is the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. We can read that from 2 Peter 1, verse 16. For we did not follow cleverly devised myths when we made known to you the power and coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but we were eyewitnesses of his majesty. So what's Peter getting at? Peter is saying this, I have been preaching to you that Jesus is returning. And so if you go back to the beginning of the chapter, He's getting Christians to wrap their minds around, wrap their hearts around this. We have God's precious and very great promises. And since we do, we live a certain way. And if we live this certain way, we're knowing Jesus better. And we keep living this certain way no matter what, looking forward to the greatest promise. And the greatest promise is that Jesus is coming soon. So I will ask that you keep fighting this week and that we share in this together, that no matter what happens today, no matter what happens tomorrow, no matter how the week unfolds, we keep living a certain way. And if we keep living that certain way, we will know Jesus better. What, right? It's through his precious and very great promises. And we keep living this certain way. And keep in mind, what is that certain way? It's 2 Peter 1, verses 5 through 7. We keep living this certain way no matter what, looking forward to the greatest promise. And the greatest promise is that Jesus is returning very soon.